Hello friends, welcome to my channel. This is Charan. Let's continue the ReactJS tutorial series. Now in this video tutorial, I will explain how to disable the elements, the form elements in few seconds after few seconds when a user clicks the button control with the display time in ReactJS class component. And here we got the final output of our application. We got one text box control and button control. Now when a user clicks the button control after a few seconds, the both HTML elements, the form elements will be disabled. Let's check that one. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. See, once we got 0, the elements are disabled. Let's check again. When I click submit button, see, after 5 seconds, the HTML form elements are disabled.
If you are a first time visitor to my channel, please subscribe to get the latest updates.
I'm using Visual Studio Code to create a ReactJS application. Just for the time saving, I have already created one ReactJS project, which is CHTML insert in this above folder. And notice in our project there is one source folder. Let me allow to expand this source folder. In the source folder, notice all the JS files which are the components, whether it's a class component or functional component. I'm storing in this source folder only. Now this time also, for this example, I'm creating one more component, class component in this source folder. Right click the source folder, new file, and the file name I'm doing element disable.js, and here we got our JS file. In ReactJS there are two types of components. One is functional component and the second one is class component. But before creating any component, we must import the React class from the React library. Let's import React class from React library. After that, I'm defining one class called element this, which is my file name, and this class extends react.component. After that, every class component at the bottom line we must export default our component name, which is element this. Now in the class component, between the curly brackets, in every class component there are two important methods. One is a render method, and the second one, inside the render method there is a return method which displays the output on the browser, and this return method contains the HTML elements. First let's add one div element. The div element is a root element of our component. If you want to add more than one HTML elements in our component, we must add between the div container only, otherwise you'll get an error. First I'm adding one header, disable HTML elements after few seconds, button click, and I'm adding one more H3 tag, which is ReactJS tutorials, and after that I'm adding one horizontal line. Now after the horizontal line, I'm adding two HTML elements. One is the input type. Input type is equals to text, and the second one is, let's give some space, and BSP, and the second one is the button element. Let's give the button element as a submit. I want to put everything, these elements, in the center. Now before adding the functionality, when a user clicks this button control to disable the elements after few seconds, for example 5 seconds, let's first check the output, how it looks, the designing part on the browser. First save this file, save all. To run our component in ReactJS, we need to import this component name this component name in index.js file. Here we got the index.js file. Notice in the index.js file, by default, the app component is entering. I am adding the element this, which is our component name, as well as we need to import our component in the header section in index.js file. Now let's save this file. Now we can able to run our component. For that, go to view, click terminal, and the terminal, notice the path d colon. This is the folder name. This folder name. Inside this folder, I have created my project. So I am adding my project to this path. Cd change directory, mul insert. After adding the correct path, now I can able to run our application. To use a command called npm node package manager, start, enter. And here we got the output of our application. This moment we got only header section, horizontal line, one text box and button control. Now my aim is when a user clicks this button control, I want to display here the time, for example 5 seconds. So it will count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once it reaches 0, I want to disable these HTML elements, both the text box and the button element. Both I want to disable once it's 0. So switch back to the component. Let's create one constructor. Whenever we define a constructor, there is a super method we must add. Inside this super method, we can define state is equals to a state. Let's add 1 seconds, the property seconds, 5 seconds I want to display. Now let's add these seconds, the state. Here I want to display this dot state dot seconds, as well as I want to display not only on the button, the bottom also, h3. Now let's save this file, save all. We'll check the output. See here, submit file. Now when a user clicks the button control, I want to start the countdown. The file will become 4, 3, 2, 1 like that, so on until it becomes 0. These both HTML elements, the text box and button control, will be disabled. So first we require countdown. Let's define one function. Countdown is equals to arrow function. I'm defining. Inside this arrow function, the return value we define seconds. Return seconds, as well as I want to add the logic, the set time interval, like 5 minus 1, it's 4, 4 minus 1, like that. I want to delay the time. For that I am adding one more functionality, count timer count. Let's add the timer count. Timer count is equals to now in the timer count, I'm calling this countdown function. So let's define one variable second count. Second count is equals to this dot countdown. The countdown, I'm adding the state. This dot state dot seconds. Now if set count, here the logic I'm adding, and this dot state dot seconds question mark. I'm changing the state 5 minus 1 4, like I'm changing the state. For that we need to use a set state method, let's define one variable seconds. This dot state dot seconds minus 1, this dot set state dot seconds this dot set state, this dot set state is a hook. Now here let's define one variable. You can define any. Let's define one property seconds. This dot state dot seconds. Here should I? Let's close here the bracket. Here we don't require. Now after that, now we require the button click event handler. Button handler. Now in this button handler event, I'm calling this timer count using set interval function. But before that, we need to define one property. This dot. Let's define count seconds is equals to set interval function. This dot. I'm calling this function timer count, comma. And the number timeout, I'm defining 1000, which is 1 second. After 1 second, I want to change the set state 1000, which is 1 second. I want to display. We need to add this button handler event to the button click button element. On click is equals to this dot. I'm pasting the button handler, which is my event name. Now let's save this file, save all. We check the output. I'm reloading the browser. See, when I click the button control, notice it displaying the delay time. Now the second condition, once it becomes 0, I want to disable these both elements. So for that, it's very simple. In the same button click handler, now in the button handler event, it's simple. I'm creating one property, true or false. If the delay time showing 5 more than 0, the button elements, the HTML elements will be enabled. If it's 0, the HTML elements will be disabled. For that, I am adding set timeout. This dot set state. I'm creating one property here. Disable element false. Disable true. If it's disabled true, first give the disabled true. If it's showing the time interval greater than 0, the elements will be true, which means it's enabled. And second condition, this dot set state disable element is false. That's it. Let's put the colon parenthesis here. Let's save this file, save all. Now we need to add this property disable element here. For the input element, add this disabled property this dot state dot disable element, and the same property I'm adding for the button click event. So I'm adding this disable property element to this both HTML input text box element and button element. Let's save this file, save all, compile successfully. Let's check the final output. I'm reloading the browser, and here we got the final output of our application. We got one text box control and button control. Now when a user clicks the button control, after a few seconds, the both HTML elements, the form elements, will be disabled. Let's check that one. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. See, once we got 0, the elements are disabled. Let's check again. When I click submit button, see, after 5 seconds, the HTML form elements are disabled. That's it. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe my channel. Catch you in my next video tutorial.